So welcome back, fault rash. We have a leak on fuel filter here. Just where the pipe's coming out of it. Nice bit of pressure in the fuel system there. Anyway, that's good. Our lift pump is doing its thing. I'm just going to try different doughty washers on it to help and get that sorted. Shouldn't be a biggie, but at the same time we want to get it sorted. See if I've got it big enough here for this banjo bolt here. I'm going to put the battery of my own Ferguson 20 diesel into this for the cold start, because that has 1,000 cold cranking amps, and this battery, the battery in this tractor is only like for like a 1.6 diesel, I think, car engine, so it's not strong enough. So I will be suggesting to the owner to pick up a better battery. 1,000 cold cranking amps is just ideal. It's basically going to make a massive difference. Okay, so that's a better fit there. Okay, doughty washers, love them. Rubber lip both sides. So this one's bigger and this one's smaller. So we just check it there on the fuel filter and see. That's going to. That was a mistake I made. I had one that was too big. We just wanted to be roughly that size there. So one side is smaller. The side on the fuel filter is smaller than the side that's on the bolt head of the doughty washer, right? That's a mistake I made there. I'm just going to make sure that that's going to fit in there. It's actually not, so yeah, I thought I was doing good there. I wasn't. That's not going to work. That's the problem with these, unfortunately. It might fit the shaft of the banjo bolt, but it has to also seal here. We can try this one and see, will that work a bit better? We can try that. The problem is, when you're tightening this, the doughty washer will fall down a bit because it's loose on there, so you just have to kind of try and get a pick or something there just to try and keep it centralized. So I'll get a pick and just, or a screwdriver, just keep that because it has fallen straight down. So get a pick and we'll just push that up over time. Okay. All right, sheet balls. Now, hopefully tighten that up. Too many spanners knocking around here too. Okay. Well, don't go too much. Shouldn't need to go too much with the doughty washer anyway, if everything's right and lined up. Turn on our fuel, we can start pumping then. This will need to be bled to the pump because the air in this pipe now. Torch in behind, see what's happening. Can be a bit awkward. So one of these new pipes as well are perfectly square as well. The sealing faces can be a little bit off on them, and they're really hard. They're not like the brass that was on the original ones. That looks good so far. Hopefully that's an easy fix. Our tap there seems to be dry. There's a lot of diesel around here. In general, that one in there has gone loose because I had to bend the pipe a bit. The dipstick, you are going to come across that a lot when you start fitting these pipes. They're never a straightforward fit. So I think I just loosened everything there slightly when I was bending that pipe. So we'll just give it a wipe and we'll come back to it. It's no big deal. We will get them to seal. I think also looking up there, ejector bleed off or spill off pipe is just a little bit wet as well. The meter's 7/16. Where that is up here. I put new olives on that with a bit of running. That would have tested it. So 7/16 here. When you're tightening these up, try and keep the pipe pushed up as well, otherwise it can just pull the olive off the end of it. So that isn't overly tight, which is good, and that's the way I like them to be. So that's a little nip one, but this part of the process does take a bit of time, the kind of chasing down the leaks process. So pump over system there. That looks good there so far. Maybe that was a nice easy fix. Give it a quick wipe and keep an eye on it. You can always tighten a bit more, but without easy, just don't normally. Inside is lovely and dry, that's all. It's brilliant. Okay, so my battery, the battery in my 20 diesel here is still charging. Green light isn't on it yet, so it's not fully charged. It's 1000 CCA, cold cranking amps. That was the biggest battery that I could get at the time to fit in the battery tray. It's about 5-year-old now, or 4-year-old now, and it doesn't have the same power as it did when it was new, of course, but at the same time, it's still an animal. Whereas this little colleen here isn't even the length of the battery tray, and I've put similar into the likes of a Volkswagen Golf 1.6 diesel. I can't see the cold cranking amps on it at all. I see 12 volts and 2-year guarantee. I'd like to see the cold cranking amps on it somewhere. I suppose if I looked up, I don't know, it's not worth it. I would be strongly suggesting him getting a full-size battery. It's like our Ferguson major home. We went to the Ford dealer and we put in a battery from a 6-cylinder New Holland tractor into it, and game changer. It was worth the extra 50 euro or whatever it cost for the fact that it just spun the engine so much quicker. So yesterday was spill timing. The workshop manual says, as we heard, 32 degrees. The hole in the flywheel brings it to 30 degrees. So you're 2 degrees out. So how you do that is you drop your pump on the, I put them marks there on it. You drop the pump 34 thou, see? You pull it out towards you, so clockwise from the front. You spin it on its flange, 34 degrees. It's about the width of a hacksaw blade. I just got my vernier calipers, digital vernier calipers, put 34 thou on it and put it in that slot, and that's where it brought me there, right? So that is how you get the 2 degrees extra to bring it to 32. Frustrating enough because it's not as, you know, as certain as just being able to put your screwdriver in a hole that's 32. They just put it on the hole at 30, so don't know why. But the workshop way is a little bit different. In the workshop manual, you drop your pump, your 2 degrees, right, 34 thou there. You take out your gear and you basically, instead of turning the pump on its flange, you turn this one whole revolution, or whatever, a few revolutions, 1, 3, 4, 2. 2 goes up, plunger 2 goes up, comes down, and the same crack happens. As it's coming down, your fuel is streaming out, and then just as number 1 comes up, like here, just as it blocks the inlet port, that's your spill timing. That'll stop. You'll see your little drip hanging there, and what you do then is you slap in your gear, right? Let's get my torch here as well because I want to show you something we were talking about yesterday. Your 2 dots will not be lined up perfectly, right? So there's number 1. Let's get the camera to focus there first. There's number 1, and number 2's above. Can you see it on top of that gear there? There. It's just a slight hair's width off. And the reason why that's off is we have to then go and turn our pump back. But you don't turn that back until you get your gear put back in. So you put your gear back in. So I'm going to give that a wipe there with some white paper. Okay, lovely. You put your gear back in. It only goes in one way, as I said before, so you just take your time, find a slot. Don't want to go pressing too hard, I might turn the pump. I think it was somewhere over there. Go a toot at a time. There we go. Right, put on your lock nut. And then what you can do is you can turn your engine 1, 3, 4, 2 again, watching the plungers. And when you put your screwdriver in, the same thing should be happening there. Right. But to get the final 2000s, you loosen off your pump and you just line them up again, and then you're at 32,000. The lads that are doing this that I know for a long time will tell you, because of the wear and stuff in there, if you don't go replacing timing chains and timing gears, there's a bit of slack in there. They reckon that 30,000 is actually better. That slightly advancing is better, because for a few reasons. As that pump is pushed in that little bit more, it's going to get them plungers to rise a little bit more. So it takes up for a wear maybe in the bearings, it takes up for a bit of slack here, and it can sometimes make them a little bit easier to start. So that's just their opinion really. So what I do is I go ahead and I work it. I set it at either 30, and I can then move my slot back to 32 or move it back to 30 or even 28. Have a play around, find out where your engine sounds best, starts best, sounds the best when you're revving it, the response, the smoke, any of that kind of stuff. And I find that's how I fine-tune them, rather than sticking to the guidance in a workshop manual, or the purists will say, oh, you know, it's meant to be set at 32,000. It is when the engine isn't new or when it's overhauled, I'd say fair enough. But when they're a little bit old like this, and there is slop in there, and the timing chain maybe wasn't 100% tensioned right or whatever, 30 seems to be a bit better. It's just like doing the timing on your gold belly there. Some of the people say 16 thou, what to say in the workshop manual. Other lads will say set them to 20 thou. That's what they find works. So purists mightn't agree 100% with me just going and saying set it at 30 thou, 30 degrees before top to centre, and tighten everything up and go from there. So that's why I've done it both ways. Just didn't record the actual process of it, but I think I've shown there how you will go about doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to button this up, put back on the timing cover, inspection cover there, and not going to make a new gasket until I'm happy. When I'm happier with it, I'll put back on the radiator. What I might do now as well is put in the grease seal and start in the hub. It's in the vice there at the moment, and we can at least get her back on 4 wheels. But for the messing that I was doing here, it actually was handy not having the wheel there. So we'll keep going at something anyway. Okay, fall to rash. So where are we at? Our fuel system is drying up and staying dry, right? So first connection there is good. Our cork had to tighten that there a little bit, so it's a little bit weepy. That's you'll often get that with a new cork gasket. So in with your 11th or 7/16, and just give it a little twist, a little bit more, and we'll keep an eye on that then. As it swells, it gets wet and all of that, and that's how it seals. So our connection behind the fuel filter is dry. This seems to have dried up. This is staying dry, and our connections down there are drying. The one on the inside I gave a nip to, behind the pump is dry. So I haven't started this today as yet. I threw the battery back on charge there as well. It's my own battery, and the orange light means it needs a charge, so we'll just give it a start in a while. The radiator has to come off again because this aluminium thermostat housing isn't 100% flat, so I have to do a bit more flattening on that. But the most interesting thing that I want to sort out is a little bit of information the owner gave me. He said that this tractor doesn't have great power, that if it's pulling a small trailer or turf up a hill, it dies and you have to drop down to third gear. And I said you shouldn't have to do that. The governor should work. Now, it's no surprise that the governor wasn't working with how seized, we'll say, the dampener and all in there was, right, to a certain extent. But he did say that someone was messing with the rack in this. So they definitely weren't messing with that because it was seized, right? He said also when it was ticking over, the revs were going up and down, up and down, up and down. That's a common issue with these. Usually what you do is you shorten your throttle rod there, and that pushes the dampener in, and the rack then stops moving forward because it hits that, and that kind of just steadies it a bit. So that's one end of the rack. The other end of the rack is this. Now I know for a fact that if you screw that needle in too far, it's going to push your rack back this way, and as we know, we pull our pull to stop back that way to stop the engine. In other words, to turn the fuel off, to reduce the amount of fuel. So if that pin in there, I'm going to take it out, that pin is too far forward screwed, it's going to stop that rack twisting. And they are on a tread, and the more forward that they come, the more they kind of screwed down a bit and they allow more fuel in. So I loosened that lad off there. My own one was set from, this is what happens sometimes, you have to actually take out the actual screw with the pliers. It happened my own as well. So I'll take out that screw. My own one is off. This was also set by a diesel injection shop. So what you have in there is your pin, right? Can we see that? There's a pin in there. When you press that up, it lines up with a hole in the end of the rack, and that gives you your maximum fuel setting, right? So the spring in there is pushing that forward into maximum fuel, and when the engine starts, the vacuum builds up because this is attached to the air intake. So that's sucking in air, that's sucking against that leather diaphragm, and it's going to pull the rack off the maximum fuel. This will click out and it'll be in the run position. But if I go and remove that, and if someone goes messing with that by screwing that in too far, the run position is now too far back. This will act as a stop then, because when that pin is there, you'll see it's sitting down low there, right? That's going to act as a stop, and it's going to be monitoring the amount of fuel. It's going to be adjusting it. So I would like to bet now that when I take the one off the other tractor and I put a vernier calipers in there, that it's going to be screwed this way more. It's going to be screwed outwards more. And if I adjust that one to how this one is adjusted, that we could have better starting and better running. So that's what I'm hoping. So let's get the other one off and compare, and we'll get back then when we have a bit more to show. Here we go. Am I going to be proven right, or am I going to be proven wrong? This is the one that's coming out of the tractor. So let's stick our vernier calipers onto that. So 16 mil. So that pin is 16 mil from the end. So that's one of the tractor. My one, I left the cap back on it so that we know which one's which. This doesn't have to be adjusted. This was adjusted by diesel injection shop there. So we'll zero that off and we'll see. $13.42. So there you go. Let's go. We'll adjust this to 13.5, I'll say. We'll do the finest. So in here there is 7/16 lock nut and then just a flathead. So we'll put on our 1/4 inch here. So you just need to, at the start, just push that in till you get your socket onto it. Loosen them off. Could be a little bit awkward, so we might have to put them in the vise. Okay, loosen them off a bit, and now we've got to screw this Okay, I'd be very surprised if someone was messing with this. It's fairly bloody tight. We'll get a bit of spray on the job here. Get a better screwdriver. It's a little bit awkward to hold this in the vise now, to be honest with you. I don't want to be damaging it too much now. This baby now is just going to have to start working. There we go. So let's just take it out and I'll show you exactly what it is. We take that out. So you get that and your little spring washer on it, right? So that's that, and there's your pin that goes into the bottom of the, into the back of the rack. So make sure everything else is looking okay in there. There's no need to do anything else with that. So that's just what I took that out just to show you, right? We're going to have to get this turning on this freely, so I'll put that into a rag. I'll put it in the vise just to grip it nice and easy. I'll have to get him spinning, otherwise we're not going to be able to adjust this at all. It'll just keep turning after we get it set. So grip that, tighten her in. It's just the last few threads that are a little bit tight. Shouldn't make a difference because it won't be coming out that far anyway, so that's all right. Okay, so back in with our button. Grab him nice and easy now. Find out where he likes to sit. There we go. So we're going to put this in. So what did we say? 13.5, and it was 16 mil. So it's not a whole lot, but it's still going to make a difference to the running of the tractor, and more importantly, well, yeah, as important, the starting of the tractor. That was the owner's biggest problem. So we'll set this now. See what we're sitting at there. 0 our calipers, and move the camera. May as well show you everything if we can. Let's see to zero that properly first. So I'll get this set. So 17.65, so that's too much, so we screw around another little bit in. Don't know how much will work out fairly quickly, how much we have to go. 16.44, so that's basically back to where it was. So another few turns, go 5 more, a few more turns anyway. Actually, what am I saying? 16 is what we, is it, what did I say the other one was? 13, yeah. It's starting to get fairly tight there now. So we'll see if we can improve it at all. 14.86. Why is that getting so tight? Right. That's interesting. I have a feeling someone was, I've seen these damaged before at the end where people are actually filing them, not going to lie. So we'll take it out again and see. I'm going to remove that spring washer and see if I can get it in a bit more, because something ain't right. I had one of these, a tractor I bought years ago, actually was someone had taken it out and actually they filed this way back. So the spring washer's out there, so we'll slap this back in. I just want to get an idea, see, are we able to, or is it just down to bad threads? The threads look perfect. So what's causing it to be a little bit sticky? That's nearly at the end of its travels there. Okay, that's good. So 12.48. Okay, so I suppose I'll try and put that spring washer in again. Do I think this is going to start moving when I lock up the lock nut? No, but I do prefer to have washers on things. If I go for it, I might even just go for a flat washer if I have to, because this is just, you can see it's too thick. To go for a flat washer, I will. Just give it a good nip and it won't move. It's not as if it's been vibrating or anything like that. Like it's just going to be sitting there. But we will try our best. Or actually, do you know what I'm going to do? Do you know what? We'll put it here into the vise. I'm just going to give it a quick nip here. I'm going to try and loosen off that lock nut just a little bit more, because I think that is actually the problem here. It's getting a little bit catchy there. Let's wrap it around in there a little bit just to catch it. We'll try and see can we just get her to come off a little bit more, thread or two. Yeah, it's going to have to free up a bit there. Yeah, I think we're going to work it now so that we can use the spring washer. We may as well try and do things right. It's going to be a matter of freeing it up a little bit. Just years of dirt and stuff. Okay, I think that's going to work. So back on with our spring washer, right where it should be. And we'll put it back in. We should have enough of adjustment on it now. Let's see where that's at. This is hopefully going to make a nice difference. Then we'll do a cold start. Or actually I might do a bit of work on the thermostat housing first. They can be tricky as hell. So that's 17, so that's sort of flying in there. So that's too far. That's brilliant news. So now we should be able to, just trying to see now about how do I go about screwing that in, screwing the lock nut in without the pin going in. If I got a screwdriver down there, I'd be all right. Yeah, I'm going to have to screw that in a bit. I'm going to have to try and get that lock nut to stay put. So I'll just grab the socket and the vise, screw it back through the lock nut, and now start making adjustments with the lock nut, because that seems to be the stiffer. It will take a little while, so we'll get her there. Have to go in a bit, yeah. Okay, so what are we at now? I want it to be about 13 and a half. So we need to go in another good bit, and now our lock nut is screwed down a bit better there, so that's what we need. Let's screw it back in a bit more to see how far we can go. Did put on the lock and washer thing, so we'll have to go a bit more with this. Getting there. 15, so back to 13. And a half. 14, and give her another. Now we'll see where we're at. $13.77, right, nearly there. So I have a feeling now that's probably good enough. Just give her a nip in now, and we'll probably call that quits. It's way better than 16 anyway. There you go. The room was 13.45 and we're 13.46, so there we go. So that is ready to go. I'm very happy with that, because that was wrecking my head when I heard that someone was messing with the rack. So that's going to make a difference to the running position of the pump, and it's going to make a difference to the cold start, because it's going to allow this lad to come out more. So sometimes you have to take that off to fit this, because the casting on the block there gets in the way. Depends where your pump is timed, I suppose. Pressing the button to get that onto the rack, the little pin will go into the hole in the end of the rack for your excess fuel, and then you can start screwing in. Where it gets awkward then is you're trying to fit these screws in there, so I'll try and turn it up to the top. I'm probably going to drop them about 10 million times, so I'll come back when I have that done, and I have my snouty pliers there, so, and then we'll try it either for a cold start, or I might just do a bit of work on the thermostat housing. Okay, I knew why I wasn't in a rush putting the wheel back on, because I was able to get into everything nice and handy there without the wheel. Anyway, we have that back in. Sometimes when the pump is set further out, you miss that cast in there, and you can just screw this out straight. So when you can't, you just have to put them in from the side there and tighten them up with a snouty. Not ideal, but it's a lot more ideal than taking the pump or moving your time and all that. And we tighten them in 3/4, even flat. So that just simply has to make a difference. It's 25 millimeters more this way, more into the fuel. More fuel set away is going to make a difference to the cold start. Our rack is going to go further forward for cold start, and then it's going to be sitting in a further forward position for running. So yeah, that's good. Next thing is to start flattening this a bit more. Anyone watching the videos on the Go Belly, took me about a period of 3 weeks to stop that from leaking. So I'm just going to have to flatten like hell. I actually since put on 2 gaskets, so I'm just going to have to try and find a better gasket for it. I don't like putting 2, but I needed to build up a bit of thickness. So that's the next thing that we're going to have to do, is start taking all of them off and get that radiator moved out of the way and get flattening there. So I'll show you when I get down to there, that far. I'll show you a bit of that work. Okay, so remember I was saying yesterday, stools are different heights. It's no harm having them in the shed. It's ideal for holding your radiator. Maybe taking off the bottom hose, it means you don't have to let as much coolant either. Take off the thermostat housing. About this last bolt here and see what we can do. It's going to involve a bit of flattening. Maybe the fuel tank is on, of course, but I'm not going to take that off, because you know yourself, air gets in the system and all of that. I want to give this a cold start then when I get this done, hopefully sealed. Be able to test it. I'm going to cold start it every day for a while to see if Still timing. Definitely making a difference. So, oh, might let out a bit more water there. Let that level drop a bit more, so I can put white paper down there. Indian head is great for taking off gaskets again. That's what we have to flatten. I saw where it was leaking. There's a bit of a low spot there where it was leaking. It was leaking just at my fingernail there. Bit of the focus. Just above my fingernail, that little half moon shape. Must be low there. So I'll have to keep flattening until I get that out of it. I think that's going to be the only option there. Get a bit of white paper down in there. And I'll be able to get the workshop back hoovered and hoover enough that goes down there afterwards. I think I'm sure that pipe there is blocked as well. Okay, so I'm going to get a sanding block and come back. Nice new bit of sandpaper on the sanding block. Yeah, it's not taking out, not that, so that's a low spot. Still not taking out enough. Okay. There's a bit of flattening here to be done. Not pity the tank is there because I can get my big long sanding board out of it otherwise. This side seems to be cleaning, but that's not there, that low spot there. I'll get a straight edge across that in a while. And that's going to be the only way. Check it with a straight edge. Still not taking that out at all. I'm going to find. Be careful using anything that's not as wide as the whole part though. I just want to test it with a file. It's impossible to do it perfectly even. Seems to wobble in it. Definitely a wobble in it anyway. And with that thermostat, we are going to have to be fussy to get to this sealing because that is definitely not taking anything off that yet. Still isn't cutting it, so it's definitely low. slowly getting there. It should get thicker then the further we go down as well, and that'll help things. So I'm going to keep going at that. And so that's the little bio there. That area was leaking anyway, and up here was leaking as well. So I have to keep going till I get them out anyway. So I'll come back when I have them out. Okay, the sweat is pouring out of me. Found a pre-cut gasket there in the gasket, epoxy gasket. So I'll try that. And I'll put another one. I have to put another one on top of it. That's the only thing. And I'll also do the cast iron thermostat housing as well. Do both. A lot more meat there now anyway. Do I think it's going to seal? I know how awkward these things can be. I have a better full aluminium thermostat housing there anyway. If I have to grab it from the parts store there, I will. Because there's only so many times you're going to want to go taking this off, putting it back on. Isn't it perfect gasket? There was a little crease in it there, but look, we'll try it. So we have to put the cast iron one now onto that. The sanding board, run it back and forward a few times. So we'll have to take off our two gaskets there. That's one off. This one here, after getting, geez, that Indian head really gets a good hold, but a gasket will rarely tear. Why, Jesus, it shouldn't tear, but my God, it gets a good hold on it. So things have to be fairly bad for this to leak. To get this pipe off now as well. So lovely. I'm going to get loads of nice Indian head in my hand there. And then we have this bolt. Usually does come out with a bit of messing. There we go. Wipe as much of the Indian head off as we can, because it'll only go on the It wasn't leaking up here at all, that's the only thing I will say. When it was leaking, it was coming from down below on that aluminium lad. So look, that's what we're going to focus our attention on. Tap him back in there. It's probably just going to take a little bit of persuasion there to tap him in. There we go. Get that bit of dirt off of there, some kind of Indian head anyway. Right, so let's go now and make up our mind what we're going to do with gaskets. We've one on there, it's very thin, like all of these new bloody gaskets. They just don't give you good stuff at all anymore. So they don't. Okay, so it is fairly worn, this thermostat housing. That should really sit in like kind of a groove, and it's kind of worn out of it. So I'm hoping, you know, that shouldn't be getting in the way anyway. I just don't think that gasket alone is going to go sealing this. I really don't. Will I try it or not? That's the question. Or it'll be a matter of taking it off again. Probably so. It's a miracle if it seals. It's fairly thin compared to my own gasket paper, but There is only so many times I think you can keep taking off parts that have gaskets underneath them, you know, before you really do have to go and make another gasket. And that doesn't bother me in the slightest. It's just a bit of a nuisance having to drain out coolant and all of that crack. I'll try it. My gut is telling me no. My gut is telling me no. Back on your radiator. This thing's going to leak. If this was angled up more, I'd be able to just throw coolant in it straight away, like, test it. I actually might try and do that if I can. Just try and squirt it down there just to bring up the level a little bit. At least it'll save me messing with the radiator again. So the back one here I had to thread, probably if you're watching the earlier videos. To thread that in, I had to recut threads and put a bolt through it. And when I hit it flat, it must have been getting in the way of it taking off the diesel tank or something. Anyway. That's not ideal using that wet. So cool to try and keep this dry to check for leaks. So just throw this in and tighten it up reasonably and try and throw a bit of coolant down into it, bring it up to the level just above the joint there. If it's leaking, it's leaking. If it's not, happy days. But then again, we do have to bring the engine up to temperature, and that could tell a different story. But for now, I might just try and throw a bit of coolant if I can. I don't know, I might get it in there with a funnel or something. Alright, so funnel. I'll just see, maybe this will work, maybe it won't. Funnel with a little nozzle on the end of it there. Might just work with it. Or are we going to end up with stuff everywhere? And me trying to keep stuff dry, as you can see. Yeah. My destined to fail. Destined to fail. Push it in as far as I can anyway. Now I look in there with the torch and see our things hardly only took that much. It actually did only take that much. Leaks stay in. It is actually above the joint, I think. It's just not great when you're looking around the gasket surface. You can kind of see a bit more of a gap in some places than others. But it is fairly flat, like the surface is very flat. Shouldn't be too bad. It is only going to be a matter of pricking around it for a while anyway. Even a few capfuls here now will do it. Let's see if we got anything there that can act as a jug, maybe. Wouldn't. No, let's take a small bit. Just once it's above the level. I'm happy. Actually draining down through the thermostat now, see it dropping. Or it's either leaking out at a massive rate, one or the other. Seems to be alright so far. This will have been the third time that I've done this. It's just the air actually coming up from the fuel, from the cooling system. That's why it's dropping. So we'll have to keep topping it up a little bit more. I'm just going to go and get a better hose. I might actually get a cooling pipe and put it in there and just top it up with that. Oh, that's wedged in. Okay. Notice that it's full or what? Okay, I just want to keep everything dry because it's easier to see that if the things are leaking or not. As they say, so far so good, I think. We haven't gone crazy tightening it up either. So yeah, I'll prick around with this another little bit and we'll see. The level keeps dropping, the air keeps coming out, so I'll try and just get it to a constant level above that joint, and if all's going well, back on the radiator and we'll give it a cold start. Well, that engine head is going off there. I want to check and see what's happening here because the intake manifold is very, very, very oily. So if the level in this is too high, that would explain why. Look into the oil bath and see what he's looking like. Yeah, and the level is too high. You're meant to be able to see the level on it. So I'm going to get rid of that oil and put in fresh oil, but the level there, you can see that there, it shouldn't be above that. So she was most likely sucking in oil as well, and that could have been restricting air. Definitely wasn't helping the airflow anyway. If you look up there, shouldn't really be getting oil. Should it be getting oil that far? Maybe, but that's too much oil anyway, so I'll tip out that oil and put in fresh oil. Not the worst that I've seen in the world, so a quick run in the parts washer will bring that up, and I have new oil there, so top it up there.